Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing. In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
It was named after Vince Lombardi. You play in Green Bay. As important as it is to any other team, it means more to us.
When he walked into the meeting, he looked us right in the eye. He said, "Gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection."
My first thought was, on any play with my arm strength, I may not let anybody know this, but my first thought was home run. On every play. On every play.
He did what? Fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Welcome back to the Packers Corner. We're getting ready to kick off a new year here. I think we got my dad on the far end here and Schmitty in the middle. And I think, Dad, we're pretty excited for this season. I don't know if Schmitty's going to be there with us necessarily. I'm excited to hear his thoughts. But we wanted to jump into a few things pertaining to the Packers over the offseason. Obviously, the change at the quarterback position and quite a few new young guys as well. I wanted to start off with a proposition for you guys here today, and then there's a couple scenarios we'll walk towards as we get ready to talk about the Bears game this year as well. But first off, Schmitty, we got old number 12. We're in a different shade of green this year. I want to take you back to last year, if you recall. Things ended fairly painfully against the Detroit Lions. Remembering that season and how things ended, do you think Jordan Love, the new guy, can surpass the level of performance that we saw out of Aaron Rodgers just 1 year ago?
I sure hope so. I mean, that's why he's been given free reign, carte blanche at the Lambeau Field. I mean, we've given him every opportunity. He's getting a lot more opportunity than most young quarterbacks get. So if he's not ready to go, going into his third season, we're in huge trouble. So the performance needs to be elevated instantly. He needs to hit the ground running.
So he needs to be better than 12 was 1 year ago to meet your expectations. But yet you were so in love with, this love affair that you've had with Aaron Rodgers in recent years. Can you square that for me?
I mean, Aaron, he wasn't given a chance, Griffey. He wasn't given a chance last year. Look at the weapons that they gave the poor guy. He had no weapons this year. We tried to keep Devontae. We didn't try to bring in anyone of note. You had rookie running wide receivers. You had an offensive line that was shaky at best. What did you expect the outcome to be? He can only uphold Green Bay, the state of Wisconsin, for so long. We did him a disservice for such a long time. It was about time that 8-9 was our record. And so I pray, if you think everyone's going to be elevated, the team, the offense, defense, special teams is going to be elevated this year, that a guy that's had plenty of opportunity to learn the system can surpass an 8-9 season. And if he can't, we're in deep trouble.
So it sounds to me like you are pretty optimistic that those young guys, particularly the ones on the perimeter on offense, are going to take a step forward here this year.
Certainly you would expect to. You would expect the wide receivers to take a leap. We were hyped up on Romeo and Christian Watson pretty early in the season in the training camp. I mean, they looked great. So much so that we thought that our offense was going to be formidable last season, and it just didn't necessarily pan out. Watson and Dobbs both had their injury issues. So I think everyone, you'd be mistaken if you didn't think that these guys were going to take a step forward, especially with how promising the season started last year, or at least the hype surrounding those two guys.
Well, Dad, we had to jump right into the Rodgers comparisons with Schmitty here, but I want to get your take on the same question. How is our boy 10? I was saying about 3 years ago, if you want to win, put 10 in. So I've been ready for this moment, to say the least. How do you think he's going to stack up to compared to number 8 over there in the Meadowlands?
Well, I love Schmidt. He's my buddy now. He's my teammate. We had the scramble for the River Falls Falcons and their fundraiser in the off season when we were in contention to win the tourney, and down the stretch we put on a little move. I think it's not insignificant to note that the Falcons had a historic victory this weekend over the Mary Hardin Baylor team, ranked third in the nation. I had 35-3 at one point in time. And but Schmitty, I'm about to come through the screen and strangle you like you were going to do to Griff and I last year. Good Lord. Um, let's just investigate this narrative a little bit. So and then we can be done with it, because we will
We're going to
follow
talk about it every week the whole
We
year
got to move
here.
on. For the love
Yeah,
of God, we got to get
this-
past this.
we will kind of follow how this quote unquote divorce has gone.
Did you
between
follow
Goody and
Rodgers
Rodgers.
versus Favre back at 15 years ago? Of course we did. We're not letting you out that easy, I
we'll
don't
be
think.
tuning in. But let me just quickly, a little thought experiment here. So the conventional wisdom, and I think Schmitty would subscribe to this, was that 3 years ago, after the NFC Championship, instead of moving up to get a linebacker or an offensive weapon, Goody moves up late in the first round and takes a quarterback out of Utah or Utah State, whichever one it was, by the name of Jordan Love. And that leads to Rodgers getting his nose out of joint, which is why we are where we are. I think that's one narrative that's out there that probably Schmitty would kind of subscribe to. And he had no weapons, and never mind that we only needed one play somewhere along the line to make the playoffs, including losing to the pitiful Detroit Lions at the end of the year. But we won't get into all of that. So how about the narrative that Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets and gives him a $35 million present? If he had given that $35 million present to the Green Bay Packers and Brian Gutekunst, we would have Davante Adams, we would have Aaron Rodgers. It's probably likely that Jordan Love would never have played a down for the Packers, but we'd be now stuck with Mercedes Lewis and Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. And in all honesty, and with your heart and head together, would you rather have that scenario with a quarterback who's already proved he can't win a playoff game late in his career of any importance, including Tampa Bay and the 49ers, or would you rather have use this incredible young slate of speed and talent all over the field, Musgrave and the kid from Michigan State and Watson and Dobbs and Quay Walker and on the list goes? So we could still have Rodgers and Davante Adams. Would you take that? Or would you rather see what we have now? Interesting thing that will play out during the year. But what do you say, Schmitty?
I really enjoyed Rodgers to Devontae 17 times in the end zone. That's some fun football to watch when you were setting records as the most efficient offense in the red zone, in the gold zone, actually.
So
That was
I'm
a
gonna
really
put you
great
down
time in
for the
football.
first scenario. You'd rather have kept Rodgers and Adams and have Mercedes Lewis and Randall Cobb and the geriatric team, and have gone that way and see if we could run it back. I mean, I understand there's some people who would say that. Is that where you're at?
I certainly didn't mind the offense. I see both sides to this. If I had my choice, if you're putting a gun to my head, Aaron Rodgers is still playing football for the Green Bay Packers, and Devontae.
Even today, this year.
Yeah, even today. And
Okay.
Davante Adams is in his third year of a brand new contract where we paid him $150 million.
Hey, if I had my way,
That's
we'd
where he
still
would
have
be.
number 4 at the helm. I got my jersey here,
Yes,
but
yes.
I guess at some point we have to net the.
Put that to rest now. I'm in no doubt. I am so excited about this young group and this team. Looking forward to the next 3 to 5 years. I think we've just got incredible opportunities here to see young guys grow, and we would have stilted and stunted that to a tremendous degree. There's one thing for sure: Father Time is undefeated. And there's one thing that it doesn't last very long, and that's pro golfers putting for pars and dogs chasing cars and 40-year-old quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm ready to move on. Excited about the season. Let's dive into it.
Well, let's move on to the new guy. We'll play some of his moments from the preseason here. We'll jump back to Schmitty here. Schmitty, I'm sure you tuned in for a fair amount of what we got to see here in the preseason. Well, how'd you
Yes.
feel about particularly Jordan Love in his most extended appearances that we've seen? You know, you string all those preseason games together, it matches about what we've seen from him total in his NFL starting career in the regular season. So we got to see a lot of action. What'd you take away from him running with the number ones there?
Certainly, yeah. I saw a lot of good things. I think we all tuned into that week, that first game, and that pass to Musgrave, right? Just completely missed the guy, and he took ownership to that. I'm glad that he recognized it, but he did have some dimes,
And he
and
bounced right
I
back and had this
he
one you see
bounced
here
right
to
back.
Romeo Dobbs.
He the talent, the arm talent is undoubtedly there. He can he can throw the rock, and so it's easy to understand why the likes of you and your dad would get really excited about what we might have in front of us. It's hard to believe that we take a leap that is great enough to put us in any sort of contention to be competent in our division this year. But if we're just talking about Aaron, and about Jordan Love, yes, I think there's plays that he can make that are similar to what 12 did. And look at this play. I mean, scampers for 15. He has that ability, that youth that Gar's talking about. It's hard not to be excited about a guy that can turn up 15 yards in a blink of an eye. It'll be
Well,
exciting for sure.
I gotta push back against you as we see that play to Jaden Reed that you were over at my house for watching the fights. Nick and I were bouncing off the walls. Our good buddy and friend of the podcast, Nick Larson's pretty all in on the hype train too. Um, but you just said a moment ago we talked about expectations for Jordan Love, and you said pretty clearly your expectation is for him to be better than what we saw out of Aaron Rodgers last year, or he might not be the guy. I think it's pretty clear if he matches or exceeds what Aaron Rodgers was able to do for us last year, the rest of the team is better. We've improved across the board. We're asking for 25th QBR in the NFL type play, and we are going to be competing for a playoff spot just as we were last year. And despite all Aaron Rodgers' issues last year, we still should have made it if we just don't have an absolute choke job against the Detroit Lions last game of the year. So I don't think the bar for us competing in the division is very high. It just means be better than the 25th best QBR rating in the NFL last year, and be better than one of the least efficient down the field passers with the weapons we have and the speed we have down the field. So I think there's a great chance we make the playoffs there, Schmitty. Why are you pessimistic about the chances there?
Because your defense is horrendous. I think they were the 31st ranked defense in the run last year. They were terrible.
Better or
Griffey.
worse this year than last year?
Well, there's nowhere but up, right? But
Exactly.
it remains the same that you still have to put the product out on the field, and if they don't do that, we are in just of a bad spot. And nothing is indicating that this team is going to make some leap and their defense is going to be formidable. I'm not sold. I'm less sold on the defense than I am the offense. I think the offense will actually will pleasantly surprise us if Jordan Love uh, throws for over what he's expected to throw for 23 touchdowns. If he's going to put a season like that together, the Packers will be in games that maybe they shouldn't if their defense uh, plays mediocre. But if that's going to be the consistent play on the defensive side of the ball, mediocrity, and they're going to finish in the 25th, 26th spot, I'm not expecting us to be a playoff team. Would you?
I think, like you said, we were 31st run defense overall last year, and at the end of the year under Joe Barry, we did improve. But the bar isn't very high to match what we did last year, and we were on the fringe last year. Is my big thing. Dad, I want to get your take on Jordan Love's performance
So
in the
just a second
preseason,
here.
and then let's stick with that trend for a moment. Then we'll jump into the defense here.
Okay, what did you say? You want
I
me
want to
to
get
read?
your take on Jordan Love's performance in the preseason, what you saw out of him.
Could you ask for more? I mean, really and truly, would you want what more would you want to see? I mean, did you ever see more than that out of Aaron Rodgers in the preseason? Did you ever see more than that out of Matt Hasselbeck, who was Mr. August? I mean, I thought it was about as good as it could be. I mean, was it perfect? No. For a young guy taking over the team for the first time, I think you saw a team responding to his energy, responding to his leadership. I think you got a bunch of young guys who can grow up together in the offense, who are on the same page. I don't think you're going to have a bunch of guys in the locker room shaking their head, going, the old man trapped his butt and hit his head, and I'm supposed to know what the hell that means as far as hand signals and so forth. And I think you're going to have guys who see the game the same way and have a much greater intangible connection. And is it going to all come to fruition the first year, like Schmidt says? Probably not. It didn't for Aaron Rodgers the first year. I think that would be unrealistic. But I also don't think it's unrealistic that we could be in a playoff hunt at the end of the year. It's going to come down to some close games. Does your kicker choke a couple games away, or does he come through? Yeah, we did have the 31st ranked defense, but we had like the 16th, 15th scoring defense. And so we do need to shore up against the run. We got some really good prospects: Colby Wooden, Carl Brooks. We got Devontae Wyatt now coming into his own and playing with the All-Pro Kenny Clark. So I just think there's youth, there's speed, there's talent all over the place, except at safety. And I'm worried a little bit about the kicker.
Well, let's talk about that defense, and you can throw in a little bit about our boy Anders Carlson there too. But Schmidt's right, that's an area where we have room for improvement as well. And despite his performance in the preseason for Jordan Love, I think the best you can do in the preseason is stand up to enough scrutiny to say that we don't think you're going to fall on your face. Right? We had guys across the NFL like Baker Mayfield and Kenny Pickett look pretty darn good in the preseason. I don't think that means that they are bona fide legit NFL quarterbacks. I don't think you can win that in the preseason. We got to see it in the regular season. So we have a question mark there. We got a lot of youth on the offense. And then you throw a question mark like Schmidt raised about the defense. One of those things is probably going to be worse than the optimistic likes of us are expecting. Despite that, what are your shades of optimism, and how would you color that for the Packers defense here, Dad?
Well, I'm not totally without concern and reservation, as Schmidt points out. Most of it is around the notion of head coach LaFleur keeping Joe Barry. I think that is going to be scrutinized. It's going to be under a magnifying glass. And good Lord, if it goes south, it's going to be very easy to get cranky about that and say, where the heck is Jimmy Leonard? And on the other hand, it seems obvious to me the talent is there. We are loaded at cornerback. I mean, good Lord, we have got talent all over the football field and speed. Everybody runs a 4-3. Keyshawn Nixon, our returner, is our slot corner. We got this kid, Valentine, who looks like the second coming of Jaire Alexander. We got Jaire, who's a premier corner in all of the league. Rasul Douglas, smart guy. At safety is the question mark. But certainly the talent is there. The one thing that does give me hope and about Joe Barry is he did listen and he did change at the end of the year, and he did let Jaire lock up the number one receiver to great effect in the Viking game, which was just a treat to watch. And so I have hope that way. The only thing that doesn't give me hope is, why did it take so long to figure that out? So that remains a question mark. I can't argue too much with Schmidt on there, but I just have to be excited about the talent. Have you read about Carl Brooks, the story that he is inside there? He's just a rookie. Colby Wooden looks like a player. So we're just loaded with excitement about what the young talent can do. Are we a Super Bowl contender? No, come on, let's get serious. That's not where we are. But in the next 3 to 5 years, with all the cap space opening up next year, largely because we aren't hindered with huge contracts with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, who were great in their own time, the future looks very interesting and exciting. And I promise we will be. What do you? Hey, what about the Jonathan Taylor rumors? How cool would that be? we would be able to put together a contract for that guy if he wants to play at a reasonable rate. And oh my gosh, would that be a piece for this young team? 24-year-old Wisconsin Badger. So there's some of the things I'm excited and I have trepidation about at the same time.
Yeah. On the defensive end, what stands out to you here, Schmitty?
On the defensive side, it's think about how much hype came in going into last season. We thought we would walk out onto any field and stifle an offense, and that just wasn't the case. And I don't know how much changed from last year to this. You have a premier edge rusher in Rashan who hasn't played ball, so we don't really know what he looks like. The only certainty on the secondary, I think, is Jaire. Rasul, I'm not sold on that he's going to have a resurgence. You got Stokes who's injured. Darnell Savage hopefully isn't the starter come Sunday. A defense, Quay Walker, that's the guy that I'm keying in on for this year. If Quay can make a large leap forward to so much so that we think we can do without Devondre after this season, that's awesome. But he showed flashes. There was plenty of mental mistakes that he made outside of the personal fouls. And so I'm just not really sold. We lost a lot of defensive line depth. It's hard for me to be optimistic about this defense because I just haven't seen it materialize. And so Sunday, when you have a big, strong quarterback that can run the ball, who in our history we're not too good against on running quarterbacks, it's going to be a significant test for the defense right off the bat. And I'm not sure if we're at that point to stifle even a lowly Bears offense.
Well, I think you bring up a good point there, Schmitty. I think this week one matchup will be a good litmus test for a couple of reasons. One, as you say, the Packers have certainly struggled with running quarterbacks. We've given up some of the worst rushing yards numbers to quarterbacks in the history of the NFL multiple times to Kaepernick. Of course, Justin Fields had a big running game against us last year. You go back to Michael Vick tearing us up in the playoffs. So it's been a recurring theme for the green and gold. If Joe Barry hasn't come up with some sort of a game plan and a solution to minimize that, it's going to give us great trepidation. Secondarily, I think it's a good litmus test for the pass defense as well. Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears were the least prolific passing offense in the last 10 years in the NFL by a significant margin. So there's talk, and you're buying into this hype apparently, in drafting Justin Fields in our fantasy league. But there's talk that he's going to take a step forward as a passer, similar to like maybe what we saw Jalen Hurts do. I don't care what sort of a step, unless he's taken, a pretty giant leap. It doesn't matter. If we can't contain him passing the ball, there's plenty of room for trepidation there too. So I think it's a perfect litmus test for both, sort of an IQ test for Joe Barry in stopping the run, and then we'll see what sort of stuff our secondary is made up of. They added DJ Moore, of course, the Bears did, so a little bit better receiving core than in recent years. But I'm excited to see how that one plays out for sure. With a young team with some of these question marks, where we have some optimism, but I think there's a strong likelihood that quite a number of games come down to a 1-2 possession game, and the kicking game can make a huge difference. And that we saw that in Aaron Rodgers' career with special teams in general, but particularly with our rookie kicker putting points on the board and the well-noted struggles that he's had there. Do we have Mason Crosby on speed dial there, Dad? What's the game plan here?
Well, your question gives a entree into a larger perspective, which to me, it's clear that Goody is looking 2 to 5 years down the road with this roster. And he has put together a young group that can grow up together, develop, and continue to have a rising tide there. Which of these players is not in an ascending mode? I mean, Schmitty might be right. There's a lot of unproven aspects to the team, but we have a team full of ascending young players, which is just as exciting as I can imagine. Are they all going to reach their potential? Probably not. I would guess if Carlson struggles a little bit, we will not call Crosby. I think we'll be likely to stay with him unless he completely falls apart. I don't think we'll do the Mike Zimmer treatment and call him the kicker and ship him off to Las Vegas where he can become an all-pro, unless he's just horrible. So my guess is that there will be a long leash for a lot of these players, and it's why Schmitty is right that we're not favorites to be playoff teams. But if the guys get a few close wins, keep it together, and then grow up toward the end of the season to where they're not all rookies anymore, then you might have a shot to play for a playoff spot near the end of the year if everything falls right. But I agree the kicker is going to be a big part. And then, hey, let's not forget we got a rookie punter, and that punter is our rookie holder. So a lot of youth out there that haven't been in Lambeau Field in December when the wind is blowing 35 miles an hour and it's 10 degrees below zero.
Well, I think you launch us off into a good portion. I think you touched pretty well on the kicker there. So, Schmidt, I hope you don't mind if I pass by your thoughts on the kicking game. I want to hear your predictions for the season. I want a number. I want a record. What are the Packers in 2023?
Straight wins and losses. I will start with this. The Las Vegas powers that be have the Packers slated at 7.5 wins at -130. And a lot of people continue to take the over. For some reason, they think our green and gold are an 8-win football team. And I buy it. I buy that they are an 8-win football team. I don't buy that they're anything more than that, though. They are 8 wins. They have a division. We're unproven, but guess what? So is every other product in the NFC North. So I like that we have a very soft schedule, one of the easiest in the league. You have a lot of games right now, if you look at the slate, that we are less than a 3-point game in. Kansas City Chiefs, I think, being the only exception. This week, the Packers are a 1-point dog. It's hard not to think that we can split the season 8-9, 9-8. That's where I'm going to put us.
What are you picking out of those two? You like 8 and 9 or 9 and 8? What should I put you down for?
Please put me down for 8 and 9.
Father, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to look at are we going to move on to the entire North, or can I do that now real quickly?
We'll jump back to that at some point. I want a record, and then I want a bold prediction that I'm going to have us each give out first, and then we'll jump into the rest of the NFC North, and then we'll get to predictions for the Chicago Bears matchup after that.
Yeah, I just would say in making my prediction that as I look at the talent on the team and the major position groups, offensive line, protecting the quarterback, we're at the best in the league or right there with the best in the NFC North. I don't think there's a better offensive line at protecting the quarterback than what we have right now. We got depth. We got edge rushers coming out of our ears. And we're hoping that Rashan Gary gets healthy and ascribes to that Pro Bowl caliber that he was playing at before the injury by the end of the year. Do we get anything out of Lucas Van Ness? We got Enigbare, who was really coming on, and so that's always important. We got Schmitty isn't sold on our cornerbacks, but I am. I think we're going to have good cornerback play. Our young wide receivers are going to give exciting moments all over the place. So if the kicker doesn't completely goof it up, we're gonna have 9+ wins. So I just got to temper my feelings about what we can do against the inexperienced and say 9. I'll go 9 wins. And I think that's about where the Vikings are going to be. And I'll maybe give Detroit 10 wins, and the Bears are going to have 6 or 7 wins.
I'm going with 10 and 7 for the Packers, tied with the Minnesota Vikings atop the division. Detroit, you got to show me something before I believe it. I'm not ready to make any bets for them. That's what I got for you. I do want to hear one bold prediction from each of you guys. What maybe does Packer Nation not see coming that you think is going to unfold here in 2023? Schmitty, what do you have for us there?
by the end of it, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon will not be your starting running back in the second half of the season.
Ooh.
I think that's reasonable. In the second half of this season,
Yes.
who is it going to be?
Is he?
It's going to be the rookie
Wow.
Griffey. A.J. Dillon will have all of his snaps taken away from the kid. And Jones, whether it be injury, fatigue, what have you, it's hard to believe that he'll be around anymore past this season, and I think that'll play into it, especially if we're not a team that's competing for much. The kid will be the starting running back.
I'd love to see JT in green and gold. I like that bold prediction, though. I think there's merit there. What do you have, Dad? What do we not see coming?
I would say the one way that Schmidt's prediction comes to fruition is if we get Jonathan Taylor. Otherwise, I would say Aaron Jones will be with us for at least 2 more years. He's the heartbeat of the team. They love his veteran leadership. We will not have the left tackle next year. Bakhtiari will be gone, and that means the oldest guy we'll have on the team is Aaron Jones. And so I would say that he would be retained because he's an unusual player with unusual talent. But that's just me talking. I would say the other big bold prediction is you're going to see Jaden Reed break out like you can't believe. I think this kid playing slot receiver 4.3 speed is going to have a better statistical year than your boy and Jigba. And I look for great things from Jaden Reed as well as Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. But I think it's going to be exciting. We got speed all over the field, and I think it's going to be used to great effect with the Matt LaFleur offense, where we will emphasize the running game, but have a lot of play action opportunities for the young receivers.
Well, you kind of jumped on what my prediction was going to be here, so I got another one. I was going to say Jaden Reed paces the Packers in receptions, ends up number 1 for the Packers in that category. I got a different one for you, though, now. Jordan Love will have more yards, better completion percentage, and more touchdowns than Aaron Rodgers did in 2022. Yards, touchdowns, and completion percentage.
What were those numbers for Rodgers? Like 27 touchdowns, 11.
Yeah, we better validate that.
Yeah, just to put that into perspective, Griffey, our friends in Nevada, they have Jordan Love at 22.5 touchdowns and 3,350 yards for the season.
That comes awfully close to Aaron Rodgers, and they haven't been as locked in as us. Aaron Rodgers finished with 26 and 36.95 last year. Didn't even sniff 4,000 yards.
There you go.
So I think that's doable. It's over the Vegas number, but I think it's doable. That's my bold prediction. I want to jump into the matchup against the Chicago Bears here, Schmitty. You're, as I alluded to earlier, you're a Chicago guy, first of all. You've got that black mark on your record. Secondly, you went pretty all in on the Chicago Bears passing offense in the fantasy league here. He drafted DJ Moore. He drafted Darnell Mooney. He drafted Justin Fields. He's all in. Did you get any Bears in your league, in the lacrosse league there?
I did not. The Darnell Mooney we can dismiss, but I certainly think giving Justin Fields a DJ Moore talent will elevate his game. It's not like the kid didn't throw the ball in college. I mean, he knows how to. He just so happens to be so prolific on the ground. His legs, you have to account for that more often than not, and I think that's going to give him a lot of opportunities throwing the football this year.
What do you have for thoughts on this Sunday's matchup, Packers Bears? What do you have?
As a prediction, I have the Bears winning by 9 points on Sunday. The Bears by 9. I just don't think we have it ready yet. I don't think it comes together week 1 for a lot of new faces. I'm not saying that if they lose by 9 or double digits, that it's like we can write the story for the season. I just think that there's a lot of there's a lot to be learned in the first game, and there's there's going to be quite the test with Justin Fields. I think the Bears are very ascending. I think the Bears win the division this year. So there's my bold prediction. So I don't see the Bears losing this game week 1.
Oh, wow.
You are a Chicago guy. Wow, there is some hefty allegations that could be leveled your way. We'll save those for another time. He is a noted Cubs fan too. Dad, what do you have for this Sunday's matchup?
Well, God bless Schmitty. If it wasn't for him, it'd be just you and I agreeing with each other all the time. So thank goodness we got something to stir the pot here. I think you're absolutely got to get off the ayahuasca tea, Schmitty. The Chicago Bears are going to win 5 or 6 games. Justin Fields may be the worst quarterback in the history of the league with 25 starts. He's never thrown for 300 yards. The list of quarterbacks who've had 25 starts and never thrown for 300 yards is an abysmal, pitiful list of NFL players. In those 25 games, he's twice thrown for less than 100 yards. The reason he runs is because he cannot pass. He is inept in the passing game. So if he throws for 200 yards Sunday against the Packers, we're in deep trouble. Because we have got to make him a passer. We have absolutely got to make sure that he does not get out of the pocket and beat us with his legs. I would say the Packers 24-20. My only caveat is if the kicker throws up on himself, then we could lose by a point or two in a down the stretch in a close one. But I'm going to go Packers 24, Bears 20.
This isn't going to be close, guys. We're not going to have a tough time here. And I'm going to, you know what? 10-7 is not even my real projection for the Packers this year. That's my median projection. What I think is going to happen is my projection is going to go one of two ways after we see this matchup. If I'm wrong and I'm eating my words here this time next week, I'm going to shave about 5 or 6 wins off our total. But if I'm right and we come out against the Chicago Bears like I think that we will, it's the NFL. Things are tough here. Sometimes things don't break your way. But if we get past Chicago and then the expected ups and downs of an NFL season come our way, we might lose a game or two. But I think the 72 Dolphins need to be on high alert. We're getting it done against the Chicago Bears, and it's not going to be close. That's what I got for you guys there. One last thing before we go for today. What's that? For the score?
What's your score?
Oh, yeah. We hold Justin Fields to 0 passing touchdowns. He might run one in on us. We get to 31-13 against the Chicago Bears. Pour it on them.
23-14 Bears.
I didn't have the gumption to bet on my UWRF Falcons against Mary Hardin Baylor. I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot by not being optimistic enough again after that. We're riding high this 2023 football season, and the UWRF Falcons set the tone that way. What do you guys have? Schmidt, you just gave us your winner for the NFC North. I want to get your full division standings before we sign off here today.
The Vikings will win. We'll go 6-11. The Packers 8-9. The Bears 11-6. The Lions 7-10. That works out. That's kind of where I have these guys.
Dad, thoughts in at least order?
Well, I gave you I'll stick to what I said earlier, which was the Lions 10 wins, the Vikings and Packers 9, and the Bears 6 or 7. What did I say? 5 or 6, 6 or 5 or 6.
I'll put you down for that.
I have no idea where does the optimism come from the Bears? But anyway, God love them. And I don't see Ditka walking through the door there. So I don't see anything. I mean, talk about not seeing anything out of the Lions. Holy mackerel. What is there with the Bears? But it'll be an interesting season to follow that. I think we need to weigh in on the Jets. But maybe that's next week. But we really should right now. What's the Jets record? I'll say this right now. The Packers will have a better record than the Jets this year.
He can't be serious. He can't be serious.
Brutal schedule, Schmitty. They may be 1-5. They may
They
start
have the
one and
MVP. They have the best quarterback of all time, Gar. And
the
they got
26th rated quarterback last
they
year.
got the
He's
best
40 years
defense in
old,
the
Schmitty.
league. They got
He'll
the
play
best
better this
defense
year,
in
but
the
he was
league.
horrendous last year. He was pitiful.
He had the guys that were playing wide receiver for the Packers could have been my children. Of
But
course,
Smitty, he didn't even show up to work with them. He had the long hair. He was in the Conway movie
yeah,
with
screw him.
Nicolas
They don't.
Cage.
He doesn't need that
His
franchise.
hair up in
The
the bun
franchise
and
needs him.
funny
The
looking shirt
franchise
and
needs Aaron.
drinking
Aaron, not the
ayahuasca
other
and
way
going in a
around.
dark room and breaking up with all his girlfriends and estranged from his family. And good Lord, this guy needs psychiatric help. Now he's a model citizen in New York because his career image is on the line. So
They got a franchise that
by
appreciates him.
the
It's
end of
been
the
a
year, he's
while.
going to need a psychiatric evaluation.
Griffey, mark it down. 12 or 13 wins. I already put my Super Bowl ticket in. You should too.
Oh man,
9 wins for the Jets, 9 wins for the Packers.
I think we're going to be picking high in the first round next year, guys. Say that, and it won't be from our pick. What I do have to say about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets is that if they finish at the same spot in the AFC East over there as we do in the NFC North, we will play the New York Jets in 2024. Wouldn't that be something to have on the slate? So we'll see how that comes to pass. Thanks for a lively discussion. I'm as excited as I've been for football in any number of years. We have this albatross that was around our neck the last few years has been cleaved. We don't have to come watch the ayahuasca man and his sunken eyes and bereft soul sling the ball around anymore. I want to watch the kid. I want to be excited about just clawing and scraping and seeing if we can find a way into the playoffs. And I'm excited to see him do it. You guys have any closing thoughts for us here today?
Here, Griffey. It would make, trust me, would I love the Packers to be on the up and up, a defense that spins this whole thing around, the offensive line takes care of number 10. I would absolutely love it. I'd encourage it. But I go to bed every night and I think this is not the case. We just don't have it. I've been mentally preparing for 8 months for a debacle. And if anything is greater than that, I guess I'll be a happy person this season.
You're going to be
I'm looking
elated
forward to
this
the
year, my
discussion.
friend. Dad, closing thoughts?
A closing thought here. I've heard predictions all the way. I think I talked with you guys a little bit about Dan Orlovsky, who has said that if Jordan Love plays like he's indicated he can play in the preseason, the Packers are not only NFC North contenders, but they are NFC Championship contenders, which is even lofty for me. But Orlovsky's sticking to that. And then I've heard all the way to Colin Cowherd, who has predicted the Packers will win 4 games. And it sounds like Schmidt is a little more like Colin, but yet he's given us 8 wins. So I got to give Schmidt credit for thinking that we got something there. I think if Jordan Love and this young team won 8 wins and so showed some ascension, it would be a successful season. It would be better than Aaron Rodgers' first season and as a rookie, and we know how rapidly he ascended. And I just have to end up by saying I love Aaron Rodgers. I love what he did for the Packers. I don't really like what happened at the end of his career, but all will be forgiven and forgotten when his career's over and we welcome him back into the Hall of Fame and have a big parade for him. But this is going to be one fun year with you and Schmitty, following now the Bears, the Jets, and the Green Bay Packers. And somebody's going to have some smack talking to do because we got very different opinions
in
here.
1 week's time.
Very happy.
We'll
Somebody's
have plenty of smack talk in 1 week's time. So
Yes,
pleasure doing it with you guys here. Have a great rest of the night. Get ready for some football starting Thursday night here, and we'll be even more excited once Sunday rolls around. Have a good night, guys. Take care.
Love you guys.